It is being bold, it is being brilliant, it's being non-apologetic about what we're doing.
You know, we had to leverage those abilities and just to come to the table and execute like never before.
Bring in capable people, coach them, make sure they're connected to the outcome, and let them run.
As a leader and with your team, have to have the will to win.
Connecting more with our humanity and, pausing for a moment to be the human beings that we are.
But with humility, you know that you can leverage that skill set that people have and let them be their best.
This will be a time of innovation.
Hi, and welcome to Courageous Leadership in Times of Global Crisis and Uncertainty, an HMG live virtual briefing covering what matters most to drive a winning agenda and make the future a better place. A warm welcome to today's host, Lead Principal and CEO of HMG Strategy, Hunter Muller.
Good afternoon and welcome to the 2020 Washington, D.C. Virtual CIO Executive Leadership Summit. I'm Hunter Muller, Lead Principal of HMG Strategy. My team and I are delighted to be here with you today. And I think we really, truly have a world-class agenda all around the theme of leading courageously through a crisis. We'd all agree that the recent pandemic has put stress on our complete geopolitical and economic machine. We'll explore how our top thought leaders and world-class practitioners have dealt with this over the past eight or 9 weeks. A big thanks to our partners, Duo Security and Zerto. Couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much for your support. We'll hear more from them later. And to the CIM Capital Area chapter. Been a great partner now, probably going on about 10 years. And then finally, a special thanks to Genesys Works, our nonprofit give back partner. They're doing some great work in our communities with young IT leaders, helping them bridge the gap from high school into the corporate world. So we've been on a really interesting journey over the past 13 years, now entering our 13th year here. In the past 9 weeks, accelerating our digital pivot, our digital go-to-market at HMG Strategy with HMG Live. This is probably our 6th summit now to date. We have about another 20 backed up right behind it, in addition to webinars and other virtual events that we'll be launching here in the near future to keep you connected to the most powerful thought leadership practitioner network in North America, arguably the world, and our marketplace, the HMG marketplace. More on that to come, but pretty excited about launching the marketplace here in the next 30 days. Upcoming live events: Denver, May 27th, Boston, the 28th, and Washington, D.C., CISO, the 29th, and webinars from Citrix on the 13th, Ring Central on the 19th, and Rangeforce on the 22nd. A big thanks for zooming in today. It's I know your time is precious, your time is valuable. We hope that we pulled together a great program for you today. First, from the Capital Area CIM chapter, I'd like to welcome Michael Huthwaite. Michael, welcome to the program. Perfect.
There we have it. Hunter, thank you for partnering with us on this today. I think this is a wonderful opportunity to continue to connect with our member base and with the CIO audience at large, especially down here in the capital area. We've been partners with HMG, like you said, probably the better part of 10 years now. It's a wonderful partnership. And we do an annual summit with Hunter and the team. And always a success, always a great event. And I'm really looking forward to, in this new and strange world that we live in, where we've become the virtual critters that we are, in seeing how this has progressed. So again, just wanted to thank everybody, especially the CIM members that have joined. And for those of you that are local and are interested in joining our chapter, please feel free to reach out. And that's it. And the only other point I'll make is that I am looking forward to our October HMG Summit, where hopefully we get to shake hands again and see each other in person and share some time together. So I won't take up any more time. Thank you all, and enjoy the meeting.
Great. Thanks, Michael. Great organization in CIM. Reach out to the CIM Capital Area and get connected. They do monthly meetings throughout the year. Thanks, Michael. So next up, Kristie Grinnell, VP of IT Services and Global CIO of General Dynamics. Great to see you, Kristie. Welcome to the program.
Good to see you as well, Hunter. Thank you so much for having me, and hello to everybody out there on Zoom.
Awesome. Great to have you. Hey, a little bit about, at a high level, the company. It's an amazing company, General Dynamics. It's one of our treasures in our country, keeping us safe and protected in a very different world that we live in today, right?
That's absolutely right. And I specifically am with GDIT, one of the business units of General Dynamics, where we are a technology innovator for all of our federal customers. And, you know, as a company that's been with our federal customer for a very, very long time, resiliency is built into our DNA. We are there to support any crisis that hits our nation, any business problem that's there to solve, or any opportunity that we're trying to take advantage of, and keeping our nation safe, and always being smart today and even smarter tomorrow.
Love it. Great story. So a little bit about GDIT, the scope and scale and kind of your purpose and mission, if you will.
Sure. So we at GDIT, we're a technology innovator. We deliver all sorts of IT services and solutions to our federal government customer, as well as state and local, across the federal civilian agencies, Department of Defense, and the intel agencies as well. And in doing that, we are able to provide all sorts of technology services, whether it be from a back-end infrastructure perspective to an application development, artificial intelligence, machine learning, high performance compute, all of which we've brought to this battle against COVID with our customers today.
So a little bit more about the journey. What has it been like for you all?
Yeah, so, you know, we have approximately 30,000 everyday heroes or employees that we have here at GDIT. And our employees are all dedicated to our customers' missions that they serve each and every day. And so in doing that, we always have to think about our customer mission first, and can we bring that work home? Some work in SCIFs because of the work that they do. Some we were able to bring home, although they hadn't ever worked from home, because they were at a customer site or even at our office site. And so almost overnight, it felt like we were bringing people home as schools were closed, you know, pretty quickly in the Northern Virginia area primarily. And thankfully, we had already been on this digital journey, making sure that we had tools for a secure, anytime, anywhere workforce, because the war on talent had become pretty difficult for us to do. And we knew that we had to be able to provide that flexibility where we could. And we knew that we needed to engage with our workforce in a different way, because when they are in a SCIF, they do want to be able to call home every once in a while with GDIT. So on this digital journey, and having tools that they could automatically use from anywhere gave us the ability to quickly get people home and go there. Now, with that, we had some people that hadn't ever been home. They were working from desktops and sharing those devices in the office. And we had to make sure that we were able to get devices in their hands very quickly and get them home as well. So it was a quick overnight turn, but my team was up for the job. And you know, like I said, resiliency is in our DNA at GDIT, and everybody was up for the challenge and helping make sure that we could do our work and always be at the ready state for our customer.
Kristie, how would you characterize your leadership style?
You know, it's interesting because it's times like these where you see your true leadership come out. You know, it might be that you go into a sense of panic. It might be that, you know, you are the first one on the battle line trying to fight and see what's going on. And for me, that resiliency that we have at GDIT is something that stood out long and hard. We train for this at GDIT. We think about the different crises that will come our way. We think about, if we're going to get knocked down, how are we going to get back up again? And how are we going to handle the stress and pressure of this? So I think that really came into play. I think additionally, you know, one of the things we've been doing at GDIT on the inside is our own transformation journey of bringing our digital journey to bear, our collaboration journey with our customers. And so anticipating those needs has been there, and we had to anticipate those needs even here. You know, how do we get people home faster? And, you know, trying to get a jump on ordering laptops and Wi-Fi devices and headsets for people who had never worked from home before, and reaching out to all of those people that and vendors and VARs and partners that We weren't typically ordering those and saying, I need whatever you have on the shelf overnight, help me, right? So anticipating those needs and really getting that to happen and in the right place is something that we really coordinated quickly. And then also risk taking, right? You have to be willing to take a risk. In a time of a crisis, you are managing your people, your budget, your customer, all of these needs, and you're trying to figure out which risk am I going to take. And so, this is where your years of experience really come in, and all that training that you've had, whether it's schooling or your background or, even being a mom and empathy that you have to bring to the table for your people is something that you have to think about which risk you want to take and really be able to go with your gut. And that's the one thing that I know really stood out as we went through this, is thinking about which risks we wanted to take, which risks we had to mitigate immediately. And then last but not least is just an attitude that I've always had, which is servant leadership. So how do I serve my employees? How do I serve our customers? How do I serve even our vendor partners in this, to make sure that we are doing the right thing across the board, wherever we can, to keep our economy going, to keep people employed, to keep serving our customer mission? What can I do to serve to make all of that happen? And those are really the key traits that I've leaned on and that have really come out in spades as we've gone through this crisis so far.
Great story. We're very strong, Kristie. Thank you for all you do. When you think about it, 30 plus programs to support the whole COVID-19 response, right?
Yeah, so we have at any one time at GDIT, we run between 5,000 to 7,000 different programs for the government customer. And within hours, we had over 30 programs asking us to do different things from them. We do IT services and solutions, as I said, so it was help us get all our employees home, right? So we were doing that for our government customers and figuring out how to help them work remotely, which some of them had never done so before, or running their infrastructure that had to be able to support their people working from home. So how do we ramp that up fast enough? And being a systems integrator, and for several of our customers where we are bringing them to the cloud, we were able to leverage that cloud service that we've put in place for them to be able to ramp up very quickly for them. And then we even do other things, like we're working with them on apps to help trace the virus within them. For the Defense Health Agency is an example where they help serve the combatant commands from a medical health professional services. So how do they trace the virus and ensure that they are able to communicate that across the various combatant commands through a application that we have available to them, that we've made available to them. And then there's other things that we do just from a mission perspective in helping some of the health and human services in working on vaccines and high performance computing to help figure out how a vaccine might work. So we're really excited about what GDIT brings to the table and the solutions that we can provide overall. And this is what our employees work for every day, is being able to solve these problems with our customers.
Seems like you're doing an amazing job. What's next? We're ready, hopefully, for the economy to boot up here in the second half of the year, and perhaps some growth into 2021. What are you thinking about next?
Yeah, so at GDIT internally, we're thinking about how do we come back to work, right? How do we do so in a safe way? There are people that are employees that can't work right now because they work in a SCIF and there's no way to keep them working at that customer site. So bringing them back to work is really key for us, first and foremost. But also bringing the rest of our employees who working in this remote way doesn't necessarily work for them. We have some people that live in very small spaces, and now they've got their spouse and several kids trying to do schooling at home. So bringing them back safely. And then also, thinking about what does the new workplace look like, not just for us at GDIT, but for our customers as well, because we're working all in this together, and we have to think about, should the next crisis come, what does that look like? And what are the solutions we can provide and the services that would help make this more seamless and easier for everybody going forward? So we're trying to anticipate some of those scenarios and have those conversations internally and with our customers to see what that might look like overall.
When you think about it, this isn't a sprint. This really is a marathon, and we're not
Absolutely.
really sure how long what this new normal looks like and how long it's going to be. Any advice on how you pace yourself? Because I got to believe you're working some 12, 18-hour days over the past 9 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not careful, it feels like you could work 24/7 around the clock, just continually through this crisis, because it never stops. And especially as we serve global customers as well. So when you think about that, for many of us, we're really thinking about, how do you draw those boundaries and set those limits for yourself so that you know that you're doing the best you can for your company. But I know that if I get burnt out now, I'm not going to make it through that marathon, right? I need that cup of water and that break station that I pass in order to make sure that I'm going to be there for the rest of the journey. So we're really, making sure that we're finding ways to take those breaks and to think about what some of those boundaries might look like, and really engage with your employees in a different way so they don't feel that they have to be on 24/7, that they can step aside and focus on things that matter, because our families need us now a lot too, that the stress and pressure doesn't stop when you're done working right now.
Kristie, share with us how your leadership style on a personal level, on a professional level, how it may have changed, leading with empathy and being a good listener and being really a good support, colleague, and perhaps at times a friend.
Yeah, I mean, right now you see it in people, right? You hear it in their voice. You saw people go through these grieving processes, and they still are, as some things are continuing to be canceled or prolonged in postponement. And so you really need to bring that piece of you to work that says, I'm compassionate and I have empathy, and I'm going through this with you, and I just want to listen, or I want to engage with you in a different way so that you can bring your whole self to work so that we can work through this together. Just on my leadership team alone, there's some people that they are very social, and they thrive off of the energy around having people around them in the office. And you see them start to melt a little bit if they are not getting enough of that in this virtual situation. So we're doing things like having happy hours or coffee talks or stand-ups, just to bring people around the virtual table to say, hey, how are you today? That sort of thing. Or you see some of the people who have younger kids who are, trying to balance the schoolwork. And, we had one employee who their kid came storming into the virtual office and said, you promised me we're going to go outside. And we were like, meeting's over. Everybody go outside for a few minutes, right? So it's having that empathy and engagement and remembering that, I used to be there when my kids were young. I know what that felt like, and you can see it, and you just have to really tune your ear to listen on the phone or to see the body language differently than you would read it in a physical room, now virtually.
Excellent, Kristie. Kristie, really appreciate your coming on the program today, HMG Live, and would love to see you at some point in the future at an in-person event, perhaps in DC or New York.
Absolutely, I'll be there. Thanks so much, Hunter.
Take care. Bye now. Next up, we're going to loop back to David Williams. David, please join the program. David's the president and CEO of Genesys Works for the past year and a half. Before that, he was president and CEO of Make-A-Wish, as well as has done work with the Habitat for Humanity and the Houston Food Bank, some 30 plus years of service. David, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Hunter. It's nice to be here.
Great. A little bit about Genesys Works. What's your mission? What are you guys up to?
You bet, Hunter. Genesys Works is a social enterprise that works with low-income students, and we identify them during their junior year in high school, put them through an intensive summer training program so that during their senior year in high school, they're able to take their classes in the morning, and then have an internship in a professional work environment in the afternoon, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for their entire year. And most of those internships are in technology and business operations. And, when we typically think of an internship, first of all, we think of college students. Second of all, we think of, a 4-week or 6-week or an 8-week period of time where, just when they're learning what to do, they're going back to school. Our students are actually, they're there for at minimum 9 months, and in most cases a year, because the company finds them so valuable that they want to keep them after high school graduation through the summer. And we work in 6 cities across the country, including the National Capital Region. In fact, our executive director, Mayoshi Moses, is listening in. And so the COVID-19 situation has really been challenging for us. The good news is 80% of our interns are still working in their internships. The bad news is the 20% are not. And so we actually have a bench of well-trained and highly motivated young adults who are looking to help companies with their tech needs. And so if there are any business leaders on this call that are looking for, again, hungry, smart, diverse group of young people to help out, we're available.
Excellent. And David, thank you for making the program today. How can people reach out and get in touch with you folks in the capital area?
Yeah, a couple ways. First of all, in the chat box, we have our annual impact report. And so if anybody wants to learn more about the organization, you can take a quick look at that. But secondly, you can reach out to me, dwilliams@genesysworks.org, or reach out to Mayoshi right there in the National Capital Region. We'd love to talk to you about your needs and how we might be able to not only fulfill them in the short term, but what we're seeing more and more are these students are very often being hired by their companies because they find out they're a good fit with their culture. They like their work ethic. They're right there already in the town that we operate in and or that you're in. And so it's really a win-win. So we'd love to have a conversation if anybody's interested.
Excellent, David. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Hunter. You bet.
Great to see you. Okay, we're going to go to the panelists, our panel next. Kristie, why don't you just come back to the program and turn your camera on, if you would, please. So, good to see you there again. What leadership traits have you seen yourself leaning on during this crisis?
Yeah, so definitely resiliency. You know, and I think Suneel had talked about it quite well. You learn a lot as you go through various transformations in your career and even in personal environments as well. And it's about how you learn to handle that next problem, how to get back up again, and really move forward. As I talked about before, your ability also for risk taking. You take risks very differently in a crisis, and think about how you navigate through those risks very differently. And so you really have to rely on your gut, your experience, think about empathy for others, as well as the purpose and needs that you're trying to serve, and just go with it, because you don't often have time to get the full facts in everything. And so you take more risk than you would otherwise. And then again, the servant leadership of how do I serve others? And Snehal pointed that out as well, that, you know, this is not about me being a dictator. This is about how do I enable others to be able to get through this crisis, whether it's helping to help them make decisions, helping them to do their jobs better, as we serve our customers at GDIT. So we're, those leadership traits really stand out.
Kristie, over an amazing career, both at some consulting groups, top tier consulting groups, and now at GDIT. What are the tips that you can share with folks regarding operating on scale with infrastructure and other technologies that you've learned?
Yeah, you know, you always have to think about what are those things that could happen as a CIO. And growing up in IT and thinking about, you know, my days at a big four company as well as where I am at GDIT, there are many different things that could happen. And you always fall back on your critical backbone of what is going to keep my business running. So I always think about, you know, are we going to be able to continue to keep our employees working? Are we going to be able to report to the street because we're a public company? Are we going to be able to pay our employees and serve our customers? And so in order to do that, I know that first and foremost, I have to have a network that is working so that we can communicate, right? I have to have all of my back-end infrastructure applications working as well for collaboration in order to do that. And that means that my data center has to be there, or my cloud service provider, depending on where you are in your strategy. And also just ensuring that you have the right security around it. Because as we've seen with many of the companies, the first couple weeks in the press, all you heard about was various security issues with many different collaboration tools that were there. And so, especially as a federal contractor, security comes first. So if you have a strong, secure network that can scale, if you have a strong, secure infrastructure and your hardware and software that allow you to keep doing your work and collaborating, you're going to be just fine.
Excellent. Thank you, Kristie. Stay with us. We'll circle back in a minute, please. Next up is Coley Burke, CRO for Zerto. Coley, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Hunter. How are you?
Awesome. Great to see you here. Thanks for making it. Thanks for supporting the program. Tell us a little bit about Zerto and what the problem you solve in the enterprise.
Yeah, so thank you. So hello, everybody. Hope everyone's safe and healthy. So Zerto is an IT resilience platform, and we're really focused on helping you transform how you think about BCDR, data protection, and cloud mobility. So we combine DR, backup, and cloud mobility all into one single, simple software-defined platform. So, I like to talk a lot about how we help you transform your processes, which leads to more effective use of people. And, that is basically built on the fact that our solution does things so simply, you can actually transform people and process, which has been very interesting as we've gone through the last 9 weeks and the very quick reaction to change in IT process and change in business process. So that's what Zerto's focused on.
You must have been pretty busy over the past 9 weeks. Well, what's been keeping you up at night?
So I represent, I guess, an IT tech vendor here on the line. So it's interesting for me as we talk about leadership, because I have a dual role. One is I have my own people that we have to care about and make sure that we're getting them through. But we also have our customer engagements and our relationships, and how do we adapt our strategy to be compassionate and empathetic to what our customers are going through, while I have a set of employees tasked with making sure we do the right things for Zerto. So, what keeps me up at night is really making sure that our people and, are feeling comfortable about what we're doing and the decisions we're making. But, more importantly, we want to be a strategic partner for our customers to help them sleep better at night when things go bump in the night, and we can be there to help. So, as everyone said, for me, it comes back to patience, understanding, and compassion to the people that are dealing with their own professional and personal resiliency. And Kristie, I like that aspect. We talk a lot about resiliency at Zerto.
Hey, Coley, it's been an unprecedented experience for all of us. And it's really a testament that we're all here today talking about it, leading courageously and being in the zone and sharing what our experience is. What have you learned over the past 9 weeks, and how are you going to help customers in the future mitigate future impact of a potential crisis?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely learned, and I like the comment Suneel made around if you haven't adopted ways to deal with your technical debt, your talent debt, frankly, process change. If organizations haven't really adapted their thinking around that, it makes it very difficult to quickly adapt to a changing work environment, a changing IT environment, and frankly, it's unprecedented what we're seeing. So, we've learned about, we're tweaking and kind of positioning our message around how do we help organizations become resilient. And that resiliency could be all of a sudden the people are dispersed and maybe some of them aren't available, but your processes, your business continuity plan, all the things you rely on to make sure as you distribute your work from home, you can still operate as effectively as the day before. And technical debt and modernizing systems and processes are at the core of that. We happen to sit in the, the data protection DR space, but, we take the aim, if we can help you transform a process that makes it simpler to take advantage of how you protect, move, place your data, then that gives you more confidence that your people can ride through a quick change of being all working in a data center to now being maybe 50% of workloads need to move to the cloud. So we're learning that businesses can very quickly adapt to that if they've taken that true approach into digital transformation and built a strategy around not only the tech that delivers it, but the people in the process. And that's the big thing for us that we see is, can we transform a process in such a way that makes the people able to adapt? And that's where Zerto lives around, particularly around, as I said, data protection, BCDR, and cloud.
Excellent, Coley. Sounds very strategic and right on. Thank you very much. Stay with us, please. Next up is Marcus Session. Marcus is the VP of IT Services at Tampa International Airport. Had the pleasure to be with Marcus down in Orlando about March 12th of earlier this year, and great to see you today, Marcus.
Hey, nice seeing you too, Hunter. How you doing?
Awesome. Hey, you know what blew me away about your stage presence and your personality and persona is how you communicate and how you relate stories. So tell us a story about how COVID-19 and the pandemic has affected your industry, organization, and how you reacted.
All right, thanks, Hunter, for that. Obviously, many of you probably aren't ready to hop on a plane right now. As we can see that we've lost about 95% of our normal traffic. The traffic started to tick back up over the past 2 days. So the interesting part about this whole thing is our organization, airports, operate in a very sort of, old school mentality in a lot of cases because a lot of things haven't changed. So when we had to move to a digital platform, I had started that sort of journey 3 years ago. And, you had a lot of skeptics, why are we going to the cloud? What's that? And people used to make jokes. Hey, it's raining in your cloud. You had an outage. And it used to be these, funny tongue-in-cheek things. They never thought we would need it. So when all this came about and people were kind of, doubting, that we were going to do a stay-at-home order because that was another thing the organization was resisting. I can't see my employees. Those are the things you would hear. How am I going to manage people when I can't see them or touch them? And I was showing them that digital tools we already had digital tools we invested in that could take care of that for you. You can collaborate with your team. It's almost no different than being in person, but there were still skeptics. So the day we had to activate our work from home program in mass, everyone was rushing around. What do we do? And I said, all you have to do is take the laptop and docking station I've already issued to you and go home. The tools are already there. Activate your VPN. You're ready to go. We provided a couple of instructions. About 2 days to issue a couple of laptops to some of our, we have police and fire people that work at the airport. So, they don't normally have laptops. So we had to issue about another 50 or 60 laptops and everybody's ready to go. 1 week later, we all of a sudden have converts. Everyone says, hey, man, I love this working from home. And now the supervisor is saying, hey, tamp down on this technology. All my people want to work from home now. I'm never going to see them again. And the interesting part about all of this, Hunter, is that we're building a new building to house all the airport staff. It's about a $300 million building, and it's going to be on airport property. We're supposed to move into that building next year. Because of the success of the digital tools and everyone understanding how to work from home, they've taken to Microsoft Teams you wouldn't believe. Because of that, there's discussions about now redesigning the space. Now, mind you, we're about 50% down the design of this building, and before they said, hey, everyone has to have a seat, everyone has to have a home. Now, because of social distancing and the new normal, now they want to re-engineer the space to take more advantage of technology being how we collaborate. So the lesson that we got from all that is that the organization was ready for it. They just needed a push. This wasn't the push we would pick, I'll tell you that for sure, but it was effective in getting everyone to understand you could work effectively from home. And actually, a lot of people have been a lot more efficient in the work from home environment.
What was the biggest challenge and success?
So the biggest challenge that we had was we had a lot of the digital tools. We had some of them rolled out, and we had typically done it in a pilot fashion. We'd start with a department or two here, and we figured, hey, how do we get everybody trained? So when we had to do it in mass, the training we had counted on doing was in person because that's what the organization was used to. So the challenge was, how do you get these people trained in literally 2 or 3 days? And how do you do a virtual board meeting when your statutes don't allow for a virtual meeting? So those were two huge challenges because, we're a special district. So we have our own board and everything, but we do have public records laws that we have to abide by. So we do have to have our meetings open to the public and all those things. So we had to find some creative ways to have a public board meeting that invite the public to a virtual meeting that had not been done before, and also train everyone to do that. So we spent probably in 3 days, we did about 20 virtual training classes and videos that we put together, edited, and we got them out there for people. And then we had to train board members. Now, the tricky part about that, for those of you who aren't in government, if you have board members together, it's constituted as a board meeting. It has to be open to the public. So we had to actually do individual training sessions for each one. We sent an iPad to their house, and we had to provide remote tech support and set this up where they opened it up and had everything they needed. But because we had cloud solutions in place that we had trained them on, they literally opened it up and it provided them everything they needed. We had a very, very successful board meeting that we actually used Zoom for, the same platform, and it went without a hitch at all. And now everybody feels that we should have virtual components going forward more. So that was our biggest challenge that we overcame. The biggest success, I would definitely say, is the sheer fact that the users surprised me. We always thought people would need a lot of hand-holding. And let me tell you, it's probably the ingenuity of the tools, but the willingness to jump in and use them. These people are now experts. I was on a call the other day on one of the many meetings I'm on, and someone said, hey, I don't know how to share my screen. I can't remember how to do it. I normally am the person that jumps in and tells them how to do it. I had 7 people, including an accountant, a guy in maintenance said, no, it's the screen. It's the thing right there with the box and the arrow pointing up. That's what you press. And I was amazed. I was shocked. They all are experts now, and they're all comfortable with the technology. So what that shows me is that we made the right decisions and we moved the right way, and the training provided value.
Excellent.
So that's really a big success.
Great to have you here. Thank you so much for sharing all that. Awesome. Stay with us. Next up is Ken Grady. Ken, join the program, please. Ken's the Corporate Vice President and CIO of IDEXX Laboratories, one of these darling stocks in the S&P 500 of the past 5-6 years that is just going almost straight up like a ski hill. Ken, good to see you.
Good to see you, Hunter.
A little context about IDEXX for folks that might not know about IDEXX.
Sure. So we are a diagnostics and software company. We also talk a lot about diagnostics these days and testing. And we're focused primarily in animal health, both companion animal, livestock, poultry, dairy, and water testing. Although we do have a little footprint in the human space. And just last week, we were approved by the FDA under the emergency use authorization for COVID-19 testing, test kits that we're supplying to customers in the human space as well. So it's a fantastic time in terms of being able to contribute directly to the communities of which we're a part in a number of different ways. Not only protecting the companion animals that we all love and are part of our families, but also the human health population as well.
So Ken, you seem to me over the years as an incredibly strategic person, and you've built a strong organization. You did your own digital pivot to really change up your business model. The street loves you, and it's rewarded you handsomely over the years. What have you done differently today in this current crisis environment, and how's it played out for you?
Yeah, digital has become, like for every industry, digital has become an incredibly critical component of how we're supporting both our employees, also our customers. You know, where we're going into veterinary practices to help support. I mean, I've had to take my own dog to the vet a couple of times in the past weeks. It's still an essential service. But getting into the clinic is different these days. We're only going in when invited, and we're supporting point of care, connected medical devices, as well as reference laboratory testing. And so we've changed the way that we're helping support our customers by leveraging much more extensively digital channels, both online, tools like Zoom and WebEx, you know, bring clinical insights and key opinion leaders, bring customers together in a completely different way, just as you've pivoted this, you know, event from a in-person event to a virtual event very effectively, and realizing that you're extending the reach. I mean, this is the Washington, D.C. events. I'm sitting here, you know, at home outside of Portland, Maine, because it's where I'm based, and it really just transforms our reach much more significantly for our employees as well. You know, we've had it from an IT perspective. You know, we have a few hundred IT employees at IDEXX. Maybe 60% of which are at our headquarters and 40% of which are scattered around the world. And it's always been a challenge to connect everybody together and keep, you know, everybody moving in the same direction when you have that imbalance of people on site and off site. Suddenly the playing field is leveled. Everybody has the same experience. And so wherever you are in the time zones, wherever you are physically, we're recognizing and building new skills to stay connected. And I'm trying some new tactics with my team, and recorded video messages as well as in-person or live events, streaming events, you know, Q&A and town halls that we're doing. And I expect that's a strength, whether it's on the customer front or on the employee front, that we're going to carry forward into the future, into the next normal, whatever that looks like. And that's going to give us tremendous flexibility and shared purpose as a team.
You know, every great leader, thanks, Ken, every great leader talks about their team and how they recruited and retained and grew great leaders and culture, right? And we know that from the famed late Peter Drucker, that culture really matters. When you think about all of the digital platforms that we have now, and you think about whether it's WebEx or Teams or Zoom or whatever, and the ability to connect now locally and globally so fast and so seamlessly and so quick, what are the lessons learned out of this crisis, do you think, Ken, that you're going to then accelerate in the future as it relates to this distributed workforce, the new work, the new workforce, the new work style?
Well, I've certainly, like I'm sure others have, I've thought about what would it have looked like if this situation, this crisis had happened 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. How well would we have been positioned to support and pivot, as we have with remote work? Number one, when you don't have to limit yourself to searching for talent that lives a commutable distance from an office, right? Suddenly the world is your oyster. Like, you can go wherever the talent is. That creates an opportunity for new diversity, for new thought patterns, for new engagement. It creates some challenges, certainly, that we got to work through from a logistics perspective as to how that looks like for connectivity. But those are kind of the things that we're thinking about. What is that going to look like? And that extends, of course, beyond the IT team into other parts of the organization. But I'm thankful. Hunter, you've often said, today, whatever the day is, today is the best day to be in IT. And I'm certainly grateful for the fact that we have prioritized over the past 5-6 years since I joined IDEXX, addressing technical debt, addressing the foundations, ensuring that we had the connectivity. I had a similar experience that Marcus did when he was talking about, what's it going to look like to everybody work from home? And I had the same answer. Take your laptop and go home. You'll be fine. We've planned for this. Suddenly, IT, we look like like wizards who could see through time and knew this was coming, and we were going to be ready. But the reality is, we're just leveraging the good, focused, discipline and infrastructure and components and processes and brilliant people that we have in the team to enable the organization to carry on.
Thanks, Ken. Great, brilliant insights. Stay with us, please. Kristie, back to you. When you think about organization and culture, what have you learned out of this crisis, and what are you going to want to accelerate into the future?
Yeah, I think the first one is how we engage and communicate with our employees, right? You had to find a completely new way to do that. While the playing field leveled, as Ken said, they were much more dispersed, and you weren't seeing them the same way that you had been in your working style. So changing that work style, thinking about how you're engaging, my team, who typically I would meet with my leadership team once a week. Now when this first started, we had stand-ups every day at the beginning of the day to see what we needed to tackle. And sometimes we had to add one on at the end of the day to make sure that we had gotten as far as we wanted and knew what we needed to do immediately for the next morning. And but there's a lot of lessons learned in that about how you're engaging differently with people across the globe, literally, that when you have a group of people that are typically always together physically, and then there's those few people that are not with you, they feel like, oh, they're doing me a favor by bringing me in, or we have to go an extra mile to bring them in. Now we are all on that same playing field, and we need to remember what this feels like, right? And remember how to engage and how to bring everybody around that table, no matter if they're in a physical or a virtual room with us. And that engagement is really key to how we're going to work going forward, because that next normal, as Ken had talked about, it's not going to be back to what it was. And we have to think about what that really looks like going forward.
Any tips on how to keep your customers and employees engaged?
Yeah, so we're really thinking about, as GDIT went forward, that engagement became really important. So even our president has been doing videos and podcasts and newsletters more frequently to ensure that everybody knows what's going on and that this is coming down. And that frequency of communication, the mediums that you use, the messages that you're sending are really important, and they need to be focused because everybody's busier than ever trying to get through this and trying to learn their new way with everything they have going on at home as well at work. So thinking about those mediums that you use, what's the best tool for the job and for the message that you have to send, and the frequency with which you do it is really something that we're focusing on as a company.
Really well stated. Thank you so much, Kristie. Appreciate it. Great comments. Back over to Coley. Coley, how are you helping the C-suite reimagine and reinvent the future in a safe, secure, distributed platform?
Yeah, I think for us, what we're really going to be aimed at is, one, we're going to listen better. I think this from a vendor perspective, we're going to listen to the changing requirements and kind of the required capabilities around how you go about it. But I mentioned, for me, Hunter, it's all about, can we provide the confidence and the comfort level in a very consistently repeatable strategy and process to adapt to a changing landscape very quickly. And that for us is the biggest thing. Is I think it's moving this is going to challenge status quo in a lot of that conversation around, well, I'm not going to get to this particular thing that is causing me some risk in my environment. I think coming out of this, those things are going to be challenged a lot differently. And I think the evolution and the jump in how those problems are solved, whether it's protection or movement of data, placement of data, where it first serves value, and then how to shift your entire landscape very quickly to something that can be moved from an on-prem to an off-prem like overnight. I think that is going to, the evolution of the learnings in the IT landscape for me are going to be, just astronomical. So for us, we're going to sit in the middle of, can I give you automated, repeatable, consistent process that helps you sleep at night? And that's where we're going to get in and really listen to what that looks like for each individual organization. And, same thing for my own people, right? We lead our people through, hey, this will affect some positive change, even through the very tough situation. But I think the outcome of this is going to leap our industry ahead quite a bit, just because of all of the great conversations, even on this call. People are getting very creative and figuring out new ways aimed at solutions to go solve problems that maybe haven't been touched in a while.
Coley, thanks so much for your thought leadership and comments. Really thoughtful. Appreciate your being on the program today.
Thanks, Hunter.
Marcus, back over to you. Can you share one thought or a lesson learned that you believe would be beneficial for all the attendees? And one comment about the whole transportation industry. Are we going to get back in the air, and how soon?
Okay, thanks, Hunter. So one thing I will say is that make your bets, and whether you play poker or not, whether you're a big better or a small better, make your bet, commit to them, and believe in them. As I was, people thought I was making big bets, because what ended up happening is every board meeting, I'd go up there to present, and they'd be like, hey, Marcus is coming up, get your wallet ready, but they would approve it because they believed in it. I did the, all the work to build that rapport and that relationship with them. They believed in the vision, and we made some big bets on creating a flexible infrastructure and flexible technology that people could use that would benefit the business. And everybody now is singing IT's praises. And like, Ken said, everybody thinks we're wizards. And I'm just laughing. I'm like, this was the plan the whole time. I'm glad you actually had to use it. So we made the bets, and even though there were detractors, there were people who didn't want to, fund it, or people who didn't believe, oh, we're never going to need this crap, everything will be fine. This is just IT wanting to spend money. Now the business feels like, oh my God, we're ready for everything that happened. IT must have known there was a pandemic. And I was like, I'm not a doctor. So, so that's the big thing. Make your bets, commit to your plan. Obviously, there's going to be tweaks to it as the business. But try to predict what's going to happen as much as you can. Give yourself as much flexibility as possible. Now, in terms of the aviation industry and the travel industry as a whole, it's an interesting question, Hunter, because I think one of the things that's happening, the economy's been good for a long time. And I think when it's happening, when the economy gets good, people get sometimes comfortable and complacent, right? Money's been being spent. Budgets have been pretty good for most folks. Hiring, unemployment has been low. So what happens is sometimes you lose a little bit of that innovation and that drive and that hunger. And this thing hit, right? So we all, a lot of us were ready. Some of us weren't, varying degrees. But now, as we move forward with less money, and just to give you an example, we had 22 million passengers last year. We set a record. We're poised to do another record this year. Well, now they're projecting we're going to do about 15 million passengers next year. That's a significant drop. And if you think about it, one of the fees that we get is about $4.50 per passenger. So if you just take that $4.50 and multiply it by 7 million or so, that's a lot of money. So the thing is, we're going to have to figure out how to continue to innovate even with losing that revenue. And the way you do that is in this environment, making people feel safe. And how can technology do that? So one, we're doing physical things in the sense of wearing masks, having putting up plexiglass and things for our tenants. But my job is to figure out how is technology going to do that. We're already seeing an uptick, people booking flights because flights are cheap. So you're going to have that subset of early adopters who are like, if I can go to Vegas for $30, I'm going to go to Vegas for $30, virus be damned, right? But essentially, it's now How do you do contact tracing? How do you make, we have passenger movement technology using IoT to detect clusters of groups of people together, to take temperatures with thermal cameras. These are all things that we're looking for. Or looking at, I should say. So what we're going to have to do is make sure people feel safe, but that starts with the employees feeling safe coming back into work. And we started putting some of those steps in place and using technology to try to help with that. And we're seeking other technologies that will help, kind of take care of that function. But I think I think it'll come back. The unemployment piece of it is obviously going to be a big deal, but I think people are itching to travel again. It's not going to come back as fast as in the past. And the other key to this is where technology kind of hurts a little bit for some industries. Since people now have proven that you can have virtual meetings and be just as efficient, do I now need to send 8 people on a plane to another city to meet with you? So that's going to be a little bit of a retraction because we've now proven that you can do it via technology. So a lot of companies are going to have to innovate and figure out how to make up for, or the airlines specifically, how to make up for some of that income source, and airports too. Because at this point, you have to define, why do I need to meet with you in person? So it'll come back. It'll be slow. They're projecting about 2 to 3 years before we're back to this level. It could be quicker if there's a vaccine or some therapies are out, but that's going to be the key. Business meetings, do you need to travel? That's going to be the question.
Thank you, Marcus. Appreciate you coming on the program today. Hey, Ken, final word for the panel. You found a passion in working at IDEXX, a company that helps animals and pets live a healthier, better, longer life. Any kind of words of wisdom regarding finding your passion and working for a really interesting company?
Yeah, I think it's always a lot more fun to work at a place where you care about the purpose. And I spent most of my career in the human health side on IT. But and when I got the call from IDEXX, I didn't know who they were either. I hadn't worked in animal health, but it's a really easy story to understand when you're talking about fluffy puppies and healthy kittens and safe drinking water and safe milk to drink, and now even an impact on the human health environment. When you can tell that story to yourself, to your team, to your customers about the impact that you have, you were talking about engagement and leading through a crisis. With the pride that our team felt last week in our contribution to helping solve for COVID was immeasurable. And you could just feel the engagement through the team, through wherever they were, just coming through. And all of us have those passions, whether it's helping people travel, whether it's helping protect the nation, whether it's helping, in many ways, helping enterprises. And just unlocking that and finding a way to connect with your team and your colleagues on that, it really does get you up in the morning. It keeps you working. It keeps you creative. And I think it keeps, that passion high.
Brilliant insights, Ken. Thank you. You always deliver. Ken, thank you very much. Kristie, great to see you. Coley, thank you again. And Marcus, great to see you as well. Please stay with us. We still have a bit more program to go. Renee, Arrington, could you please join the program as well as Hugo and Mark? All join at the same time, why don't you? That would be great. One of the things we've done at HMG over the years, we've always highlighted search executives, recruiters, because we think they do such a great job and they have such an amazing service in our industry to find and locate and really dial in great talent, find great talent and put them into great opportunities, great companies. And we've seen a lot of really great moves over the years. Mark, you and I have been working together collaborating 20 years, I would say. Hugo, maybe a decade. Renee, about a decade. It's been a lot of fun. Renee, you want to kickstart it for us? You have an amazing background. President and COO of Pearson Partners International. For 14 and a half years, you've been with Pearson and over 30 years in the industry, and your thoughtful, world-class search approach, and you consider yourself a creative, strategic thinker that helps clients connect the dots. I love it. Welcome.
Thank you, Hunter. Always a pleasure to be here and always great to be on screen or stage with my friends Hugo and Mark. So welcome to you guys as well. I've been listening intently, and I love Kristie's take on resiliency. I mean, that really feels like a quality that leaders have to have right now. You have to be resilient. You have to be ready to step up. And I loved what Marcus said about his people figuring out how to share screen, right? You have to have that intellectual agility and that willingness to learn and try new things and not be afraid. And I really think these times have shown a lot of grace and a lot of compassion with leaders, because, you know, we all make mistakes and mess things up, and never more than now when you're working from home in a different environment do those qualities really need to show up.
Excellent. What are you seeing differently in the marketplace right now?
You know, we're fortunate at Pearson Partners that we have a lot of clients that have been deemed essential businesses. So we haven't seen a huge disruption in terms of our client base and our business flow. But I will say I had an offer extended for a client, first ever time in my search career, Hunter, that the client made an offer to a candidate and neither party had met each other in person, right? Just because of the moment we're in, it was all virtual, and that's different. Let's hope we can get back to a place where you know, candidates and clients can have final interviews in person, you know, because that, you pull the thread of culture when you meet someone in person, and that's really a little harder to gauge in our new virtual world. It can be done, it's just a little bit harder.
Great, thanks, Renee. Hey, Mark, good to see you. Welcome.
See you as well. I lost my background, Hunter.
Oh, well, you get dinged. That's a couple of grades down on your report card there, son. No, hey, seriously, senior partner technology officers, executive search at Korn Ferry, 23 years. Mark actually co-founded and led the practice for 12 years at Korn Ferry and recruits. Mark, you're all the way across the board, CIOs, CTOs, CDOs, and CISOs. Welcome.
Yes.
So what's up? What's new what are you seeing new, Mark, in this environment with your clients?
Well, clearly we are seeing a drop in our business. Depending on the industry, it's anywhere from 20 to 40% off. All the searches that were in process before the lockdown began are pretty much done. That's out of the pipeline. And now we're working with searches that have been opened since lockdown started. And again, we're seeing, like Renee is, we're seeing clients come wrestle with the idea of hiring someone that they've never physically seen. So we've had a few clients put searches on hold. And I'm about to, I just got the offer today, Renee, I'm about to close my first search without the client and the candidate having met. That said, the client doubled down on the number of interviews. There's 12 people interviewing, 6 individual 1-hour Zooms, and 1 6-person panel Zoom, which brings me to advice, what to do during the pandemic about your own career. Whether you're actively looking or passively looking, go back and make sure your resume is up to date, because if you get the right call during the pandemic, you need that resume available right away. Second thing is, make sure that your social media presence, especially LinkedIn, is as good as it can be. And if you're a little bit lost about that, there are lots of people that are available online to help you with resumes and your social presence. And be ready. Be ready if the right call comes. And if the right call doesn't come, time's on your side, because the market will reopen more and more as we go through the reopening of the economy.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Hugo Fueglein. Hugo, welcome to the program. Hugo's the managing director at Diversified Search. Been the search for over 25 years, specializing in placement of CIOs, CTOs, and senior IT leaders. Hugo, great to see you.
Thank you, Hunter. Good to be here. I have to do a little ditto on Mark in terms of business. I think it really has been dependent on the sector you're in. We've tended, and myself tended to do quite a bit in healthcare. So that's remains to be strong, healthcare and even on the insurance payer side of things. So that activity is good. I think the sector that has really hurt the most is higher ed, which you can understand. We don't even know if institutions are going to be when they're going to open their doors in the fall or not. Some aren't. They're going to wait till January. So it really does depend on the sector. I think industrial, I think technology has been good. There's activity out there, but clearly overall, you know, there's been a 40%. Particularly in the last couple weeks, we're really starting to feel it a bit more. It's been a really amazing start to this year in terms of you know, CIO and really all technology leadership. It's been extremely active, great time. But you know, we're feeling it. Companies are concerned, and so there's been in certain sectors a bit of a drop off.
Hey, look, I mean, it's going to slow down, right? It has slowed down. It's going to slow down through the summer here probably, but there's always opportunities popping up and there's always growth somewhere, right? I mean, my gosh, look at the tech sector. As the NASDAQ continues to go up, some of these tech stocks are well above their middle range in the 52-week average. Some of them are at 52-week highs. So on some level, we're really lucky and blessed to be in the industry we're in, right? One. Two, I wouldn't want to be in real estate right now, okay? Okay, just saying. No, but a commercial. But thinking about this, though, Snehal Antani said this brilliant idea early on when the crisis hit. He said, you know, this is going to be a moment, a time to go through a learning process. What are you going to learn during this event? And what are you going to take out of this event as a professional and personal learning experience? Learning in many different ways. You can do it on your own at home, but the thought is what's out there? What are you doing? How are you coaching your clients really to be better prepared as the economy is going to turn up in the third and fourth quarter and certainly in 2021? Hugo?
Yeah, and I think you do. Hunter, you're hitting something on me, and I'm going to even put this personally with our team, our practice team here locally. I think you got to be an optimist. And I think you got to turn, we hear enough negativity out there about some of the doomsday scenarios, but you know, things are opening up. There are opportunities, and this group, our business, we're a barometer, and I think we're starting to see that. We're already seeing an uptick in certain positions. So I really think you know, one of the things that we're asking, we must all be asking our candidates and people we're working with, you know, so how'd you do? You know, that's the first question. What'd you learn? And how are you going to stay relevant as these stages come in, right? So, you know, when Tony and I and Tony Lang and Hunter, you know, Tony Lang in our San Francisco office, you know, we kind of break it up into, you know, the tech roadmap, the corporate roadmap, and of course the people roadmap as a technology leader. And you know, right now you probably know if you've done a good job, and we've heard some of our panelists earlier. You know, Marcus, for example, is a great example. He did the right things. He planned for some of this because we were, you know, this is just accelerating the digital path, the digital journey that we're on. But you know, we were on this path. This is not, you know, maybe we're kickstarted a year or two in advance now of where we thought we might be. But it, you know, it has changed. And if you're preparing your organization for this digital journey that we're on, you've done well. You have a question, Hunter?
Excellent. No, you're perfect. Thank you, Hugo. Great job. Hey, Mark, you talk about lifelong learning all the time. That question is right in your wheelhouse. What do you think?
Well, clearly, all of our research shows that learning agility is the underlying most important core competency for almost every executive, every leadership position. And like Hugo, I'm a big optimist as well. And so, well, let's talk about the silver lining for our careers in this pandemic. If there are perhaps a few less companies that are hiring at the moment, there's a whole lot less people that have jobs that might be actively going out to look. So there's less competition. In fact, I prepared a poll, if you'll allow me, not only to get the client side of things, but the candidate side of things. Nikki, if you would throw up the poll, we're asking everyone on this call to tell us before pre-COVID and now, are you much more likely to change jobs now than before? Are you somewhat more likely to change jobs than before? About the same perhaps? Or are you less likely to change jobs than before, or much less likely to change jobs before? So we'll take a 30, 45 second break, and if you wouldn't mind voting from home, Renee and Hugo and Hunter and I would love to know what this group thinks about their proclivity to consider change now versus before.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. Renee,
Nikki, can we see the results?
We'll wait a minute for the results. Oh, here they are. There we go.
So we have about half same and more likely, although you could look at it the other way around and say half and perhaps a little bit more are less likely. But there's a lot of people there that would consider a change even now. So we have all your names. Hugo and Renee and I will be visiting you shortly.
Thanks, Mark.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Thanks, Mark. Well, we'll see you on another webcast.
Yeah, thanks everybody for voting.
Great. Hey, Renee, closing comments kind of on the future of technology leadership and in the C-suite.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we all say this, and I truly, truly believe it, never a better time, right, than now. Just hearing the comments and how CIOs on this call and my clients and in my broader network have prepared their companies to face this unprecedented crisis by putting the infrastructure and the applications in and operating and scalable and secure so that people could just take their laptops and go home. I mean, that's incredible. And I think CIOs really do fully have a seat at the table. Many have a seat in the boardroom and have been relied upon by their CEOs and other C-suite leaders to steer their companies through an integral part of this crisis, which is how can we keep our workforce mobilized. I would say keep up the good work, keep up the business frame always around your technology plans. And as Kristie said earlier, stay resilient.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Renee, Mark, and Hugo. We'll see you hopefully again soon on HMG Live. As you can see, we broadcast several times a week, and then in person, physically, after September 1st. Thank you. So next
Thank you, Hunter. Our pleasure.
Great. Next up, folks, is our cybersecurity panel, Cybersecurity in Crisis. Folks, if you could turn your cameras on, that'd be great. And first up, we have Deepak Bhaskaran. Did I get it close?
Close enough.
Close enough. Thank you. Deepak, welcome to the program. Director and Engineer of Quality at Duo Security. Tell me, Deepak, what are you doing differently in this? By the way, I love your. I love your security layer. Thank you. I'm a happy user, client. What do you do? What are you doing differently today in the current crisis?
So firstly, I'll start by saying that Duo is perfectly prepared for a crisis like this, right? So we already have the values that kind of enable us to take on these additional challenges. So I'll talk about 3 corporate values that we have. We are kinder than necessary. We learn together, and we engineer the business. I think when you start with a framework like that, when you have a foundation like that, it might be overkill for the average day, but in a crisis situation, there's nothing like it. So I think we are best prepared for a situation like this.
Hey, Deepak, what was the first point? Go back to that again. First point.
Being kinder than necessary.
Nice.
So that's been a corporate value. I've never worked at a company that had a corporate value that was, that could be considered touchy-feely like this, right? But that's where we are. That's the company I joined. I love it. I've been here 3.5 years, and I see that in every single action. The way we interact with our people, the way we interview somebody, the way we even send out rejections, all of it in a kinder than necessary manner. So
what's different about Duo than other security companies?
So for us, it's not about more security. I think there's plenty of security products out there. For us, it's about making more usable security. How do we actively get out of your way and let you go about your day job? If you're getting in your way, if you're noticeable, then you're going to do something to bypass us. So that's our focus. How do we make sure we are partners and we're not the ones that put no in the innovation? I don't know where I heard that, but I stole it. I like it.
Okay, nice. What was different about this crisis and what did you learn?
So it taught me the importance of having this foundation. It's kind of hard to build on later on. When you don't have that trust, when you can't trust in your employees and your team to do what they say they would, it's kind of hard to bolt that on later. So these are things that you prepare for in the long haul. Once you have the culture right, I think everything else just falls in place. So that's what got reinforced.
Excellent. Love it. Thank you. Stay with us. We'll circle back to you, Deepak. Christine Quain. Christine, welcome to the program. Christine is the CISO at IDEXX. We were just together down in Charlotte, I believe.
We were, yes. So for those that are not familiar with IDEXX, we liberate APs for small and medium-sized companies. And so this pandemic has really been just very fruitful for our sales because these smaller companies are relying on IDEXX to make their payments. Our sales definitely have gone through the roof because of it. But, you know, just from, I guess, circling back to things that the CISO panel said, we were prepared, but we also had perhaps a separation in duties in our organization. We had those people that had desktops, we had those that had laptops. And so we had to do a quick procure, and our partners at Microsoft really came through for us, and we were able to get everyone out of the door in 2 days. So that was just hugely valuable. But, you know, from a security standpoint, if you don't have the tools, and I think that's what we were just saying, if you don't have those tools, it's hard to play catch up. You have to build with security in mind and really shift security to the left, and even quite frankly, operations. So that's really just important lessons that we've learned.
When do you consider to move back to the office?
We actually have a phased approach going on. We have 7 different locations, and so they're definitely dependent on governor's orders. But in the Charlotte area, we surveyed our teammates, and we have about 10% that are wanting to come back in. So perhaps they just don't have the best setup at home. And so we're looking at next Monday, the 18th, to have about 10% in our office. And so preparing for that, social distancing, not having, you know, some of the amenities that they're quite used to, and taking chairs away from conference rooms, all of those things are things that we're considering and working through, because the safety of our employees is definitely first and foremost. Excellent. Thanks, Christina. We'll be back to you in a minute. Stay with us. Hey, Phil Carrai, good to see you. Welcome to the program. You have an interesting role. You're the president of technology and training at Kratos Defense and Security Solutions. A little bit about Kratos and your role.
Sure. Great to be here, Hunter. So at Kratos, we are an aerospace and defense company. We do everything from building high-performance drones to high-performance aircraft, supplying infrastructure and products to the space industry, both military space, commercial space. And we also have a fairly robust cybersecurity group focused in the cloud aspect for compliance. So a very, very diverse, very global company, which has been very interesting during this pandemic. We have offices in about 12 countries around the world, everywhere from Asia, the Middle East, Europe, and obviously a number in the U.S. And so it's been quite a ride the last several months.
Do you have a military background yourself?
I don't actually. No, I have actually a tech background. I have a tech background. I'm not sure how I happened into this, but it's been a blast.
Seems like a very cool company. What has it been? Probably a bit surreal going through this, essentially a wartime scenario here.
It actually has. And I think the challenges from the beginning, we were critical infrastructure, like I think many on the panel, and we had to have people on site. We build trainers as an example, and it's hard to remote building a physical device. We have certain things that require access to secure facilities that obviously aren't remote. The other side of it is that we had a workforce that was very easily transitioned into a more remote workforce. And inside the whole thing, we had to envelop this layer of security that we knew how to handle both on-site and off-site, but in the environment that we've kind of had today, I think it's brought its own set of challenges, both physical security challenges, who has access to your laptop that now is at home that may not have had access to it before, things like video conferencing, what do you have available on your desktop while you pop up a video conference that somebody might see? Do you have a disclosure issue that you might now have because of that? It's made the work activity challenging. On the other side of it, I've been amazed, and I think consistent with what everybody else is saying, is how adaptable many of our folks have been to sort of, we call it the new normal, but to the current environment. And I think the folks who had come from a military background just see it as kind of another day at the beach. But for many of us, right, it was a little bit new going into a very mission focus.
Awesome. Stay with us, Phil. Great stuff. Thank you. Suneel Cherukuri. Close enough, Suneel?
That's almost perfect, Hunter.
Thank you. I was practicing. I was truly practicing. Good to see you. Suneel, give us an update. You're the CISO for the government of the District of Columbia, DC, right?
Yes.
Give us what challenges have you come across over the past 9 weeks?
Our challenges have been similar to what others have been describing. It's getting our workforce working remotely and securely. Being a government entity, it's not always easy for us to work remotely. We're not an IT organization. We're not just a unit of a division or a particular function. We are actually all functions of a government. Having so many different functions of government working remotely has been our biggest challenge. Some of our users never worked remotely because their function never were deemed remote work capable. So they always were coming to the office, they always sat at the same desk and working, go on with their work. Now, taking that experience and all of a sudden having everybody work remotely has been our biggest challenge. It took us a good 2 weeks to get to a balance, but we finally made it.
Suneel, it's a difficult environment. How are you defending your organization against the attacks?
It's a challenge. Again, the weakest link is always your end users. It doesn't matter how much training we provide. It's always a very big challenge for us to keep them protected, especially when they're on their own networks and outside of the enterprise systems, and accessing and requiring access to a lot of critical infrastructure. We've been doing a cyber training for the past few years. That has been a very helpful engagement with our users. They've been focusing on what to report and what not to report, identify where the threats are, and with people actually providing more reports back to us and helping us identify the threats, it's been it's going on well. I would not say we are completely protected. It's very hard to make that statement, but it has been a challenge, but we are working towards it.
Excellent. Thanks, Suneel. Snehal, welcome back to the program. Glad you're here.
No, likewise.
So why don't you kind of like give us a little summary, kind of what you've seen today in the summit, and what stood out to you, and what are you thinking about now?
So I think, once again, overall, the key value of the network for me is being able to share lessons learned. I certainly have a page of notes here on key lessons, empathy and putting family first being one of them. I think that that no one's used to working in this environment, and it's not working from home. It's trying to work while juggling your kids and everything else that's going on. So I think the empathy factor that was stressed here today was pretty valuable. On the cybersecurity front, I think there's two interesting problems that have occurred. The first is that working from home has created a lot of new attack vectors. My house was personally hacked 3 weeks ago, where they tried to break into my home network and maneuver to take credentials and do other nasty things. I happen to have some background to be able to do forensics and clean up, but there are a lot of folks that don't have that background that have now created new ways for an adversary or for a bad guy to enter through the home, either through your kid's iPad or through your wife's phone or your personal laptop, maneuver to your corporate devices, and then from there try to get into your corporate network. So on the one hand, I think we see the attack vectors that CISOs have to deal with changing dramatically. The other problem, though, is those security teams are already overwhelmed, and they were already struggling to have visibility, struggling to detect threats, struggling to remediate against threats. And with the landscape shifting so suddenly, it'll be interesting to see what breach reports come out over the next 90 days as adversaries take advantage of this transitionary period.
It's really an unusual time. Wouldn't you agree, Snehal?
Yeah. You know, an example of why it's unusual, if you take the use of artificial intelligence to help you improve your cybersecurity posture, where those algorithms were based on the behavior of your network and systems inside your traditional day-to-day workload on your corporate network and so on. With everyone suddenly working from home, the profile of how people interact with systems has changed dramatically, and suddenly none of your AI algorithms are going to work. It'll probably take another 4 to 12 weeks for those algorithms to retrain on what the new baseline and normal are. So what's happening is, outside of the unprecedented nature of everything else, even something as simple as sifting through the noise to find signals that matter in cybersecurity has further stressed a team that was already overtasked.
Interesting. Thank you. Deepak, back to you. For folks that aren't really aware of Duo, a little more context of the problem in the enterprise that you cover.
Sure. So Duo is all about user-based security. It was mentioned that the users are the weakest link, right? So we want to make sure that it's easy for the users to protect themselves and everything else falls in place after. So one of the big things that we're pushing to market with is the zero trust model, where we take nothing for granted. You want to make sure you are who you say you are. We want to make sure you're coming in on the right device, a device that we know and we trust is up to a certain level in security and security updates, things like that. And even if you satisfy those first two, you only have access to things that we've explicitly given you access to. So that's the whole zero trust model laid out there. So nothing's taken for granted. It doesn't matter if you're logging in from your home or a coffee shop or from the office network. We will still validate these things. And based on these things, only then do you get access. So that's where our company's going. And the undercurrent is, how do you simplify things? How do you make it security easy that people actually go that route rather than try to bypass it?
Excellent. Thanks, Deepak. Any personal story in this crisis that you went through yourself you want to share?
Sure. So right now, in addition to the worry about COVID, I'm also worried about my own personal situation where I'm on a visa, and this is a particularly hard time to be on a visa. So if I happen to lose my job in the next couple of months, I need to find something suitable, or I need to self-deport. I have to pack up my bags, get my kids who were born here, my wife who works here, my 2 dogs, sell my house, just get out, right, in two months. So that's something I need to worry about. I would have had to worry about if I were working at another place. Being part of Cisco and being part of Duo has kind of given me a good safety factor where I can actually focus on my job and not worry about having to find a new job. So I'm certainly grateful for that.
Nice. Well, thanks for sharing that. Wow, what a great story. That goes down into one of the all-time highlight best stories in 14 years in 1 minute soundbite. Let's make sure we package it up, guys. The best of HMG. Christina, final word or comment about what we're going through and how you're leading through the crisis?
Yeah, I probably would echo what a lot of other people already said. I think it goes back to communication. We have daily pull-ups with our executives, 7:30 every single morning, and I do a touch base with my team at 5 o'clock every day. And so just having those different avenues to make sure that they understand that you're there for them, that you do have that empathy, that you are leading through this with grace, because we are all trying to figure it out. I think that's the most important thing we can all take away.
Excellent. A little bit more about AvidXchange. You guys have an amazing story, right?
We do. So to tie in a little bit more of cybersecurity, we certainly see an uptick when we are a privately held company that raises $127 million in the middle of a pandemic. So that security team that you were speaking about that was already overtaxed, try throwing that capital raise on top of a company that's thriving in this situation. And you can just imagine what the security team's going through at this point.
Excellent. Thanks, Christina.
Thank
you.
you.
Great job. Hey, Phil, back to you. Well, when you think of working at Kratos, what's your mission as it relates to the company's vision and mission? What are you focused in on now at this phase of the crisis?
Yeah, I think that, just to echo what I think Christina and Deepak and others have said, the challenge for people right now in the work environment, right, is how can I be safe? Do the people who are in leadership care about me? And do they care about my job, my future, the safety of my family? Those tend, the kind of the base needs are things that maybe we don't pay attention to as much because, we're in tech jobs and we think that, people are talking about where the vision is and where we're going to go for the next 5 years. I think at this point, people want to know that they're safe and protected if they have to come to work and that they can be productive and they can have a job. It's like the base level Maslow kind of things that people are dealing with right now. So I think from a communication standpoint, it's really important for leaders, as I think many have said, to be open and honest, as transparent as you can be around what we know, what we don't know, what we're doing inside of our work. Because we've been able to keep working, we've had some people say, well, this is great because we can keep working and get a paycheck. That's great, but people want to feel safe about what they're doing and know that what they're doing matters. I think from a vision standpoint, we've always had sort of a broader vision to sort of transform how people do things in the space industry on the ground and transform how certain aspects of air flight and warfighting is conducted. But to be honest with you, those are almost secondary right now as to, hey, am I safe? Do I have a job? Do I get a paycheck? And can be honest with me about what our current status is. And I think that's just a very tactical things that can either make or break somebody through something like this.
That's a great comment. I love that idea, Phil. And then take it up a level for you in your personal career sense. So the role of being a president within the context of a defense contractor, how'd you get there and what's next?
Yeah, no, I'm kind of loving what we're doing. I mean, I think we have a great opportunity. We're a mid-tier public company in the defense space. There's not many of us left. So it's kind of an interesting opportunity for us. We're very tech and product focused, which is a little unusual for mid-tier defense companies. So we think we have just some great opportunities sitting in front of us over the next several years. I think like many things, right? Once you get the strategy down, it's all about execution. And that's kind of where I see the next several years for us. If we're going to really make a big deal and a big difference in the areas that we're playing in, then it's all about execution. And in a weird way, executing through something like this that, most of us have never seen anything like this before, you can either set your kind of foundation and the culture that you have hopefully kind of crafted for the future, or it can crush you. I think it's one of the two. I don't think there's a glide through this. It either kind of sets the groups and companies in place to kind of succeed, or it could crush them if you make wrong moves. And I think that's a bit terrifying, but it's the truth.
I think I totally agree with that comment. That's a creed that we've been going by at HMG is if we didn't accelerate into this digital virtual world, we'd get crushed because the market forces are just too intense. And who knows when we're back to going to baseball games and football games and going to movie theaters and socializing on whatever, restaurants, bars, airplanes. It could be a while. We don't fully know, right? Being primarily fully an event model. So thanks for great comments, Phil. Hey, Suneel, back to you. When you think of the workforce working remotely, how's the district been responding to the cyber threats?
We touched on it a little bit earlier on in that previous question. Our workforce has been, we've been actually working on a lot of alternate work arrangements for people that have never worked remotely before. That means the security challenges also change with that vector. Keeping our balance between what we are allowing our users to access and how they're accessing it and making sure that they're able to do their job has been our biggest challenge. In saying that, we're also trying to make the government running and being functional. That is the biggest challenge. We can't just shut off a government because people can't access certain resources. That means we had to make we did a lot of on-the-fly changes for services to be available without compromising the security. Thereby, when the users are accessing our network, the threats are still there. we're still getting targeted, but the vectors change a lot based on all the new technologies that we put in place. The technology existed. The method of access is what we changed and enabled the systems for our workforce. So the threats, still same thing, still struggling to handle those ones without compromising user access related issues for our people.
Excellent. Thanks, Suneel. Appreciate your being here today, and thanks for sharing that. Maybe we could have Hugo, Mark, Renee, Michael, Marcus, Kristie join, turn your cameras on, come back to the program. I sincerely want to thank everyone for being actively involved and engaged. Snehal, do you want to say a final comment or a word of inspiration and hope for the future about the IT profession, the CIO, CISO tech leader? Snehal?
That's a lot of pressure for this luminary group of folks. So I think Mark is the one that brought it up. It's as long as you are a learn-it-all and you are investing your time in learning to improve yourself, as long as you're reflective and constantly improving your performance and the performance behavior of your team, and if you have the empathy to make sure that in this time you're allowing folks to support their families first, I think we'll all succeed. If you deviate from any of those, if you're not a learn-it-all, you're going to fall behind. If you lack empathy, it's going to become obvious and you're going to lose the hearts and minds of your team. And I think you will struggle to reveal your leadership throughout this process.
Awesome. Wow, that's great. Anyone else want to jump in before we go?
I'd like to say thank you to everybody for joining. Hunter, great job pulling this together. To all the panelists, really appreciate all of your input and your advice. And I hope everybody in the audience found it as meaningful and fulfilling as I did. I think we touched on a lot of really great points out there, and I want to hope everybody stays healthy and safe during these very strange times.
Thanks, Michael. Great. Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you very much. Guys, Christina, Renee, everyone, thank you so much. Please stay dialed in. Please be safe. And thanks everyone for being engaged. Really, this is a great summit.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you. Stay well.
Be safe.
Great job.
Bye-bye.